Hola, 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 ¿cómo le van a todo el mundo en sí? Wea. Weón. Bueno, igual voy a poner el cuadrito acá en sí, porque igual el juego es bien lento y además me voy a tardar tanto en las cositas que me voy a tardar en sí. Esto es Chromosome Evil. En un momento hice carrera de juego. Ah, la madre, espérate. Ya ahorita el audio del juego en sí, espérate. El juego, espérense, acá. Es que carga. De hecho ya voy a ver el Twitch desde el teléfono, sí, a ver si se escucha bien el audio. Ah, chuche, este güey está en vivo, ¿en qué momento? ¿Y esta weá? ¿Qué es esa huevadita? Pues esto... ¡Ay, pelotudo! Ok, ya está. Con razón. Por cierto, también han lanzado un nuevo juego llamado Welcome Back Commander. Pero bueno. Nada, a ver. Ahora sí. A ver. Hola, hola. Probando. 1, 2, 3, probando. Se escucha. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Ahora sí. Puta madre. El internet como ahora, hermano. Como siempre, güey. A ver, también. Pero más tarde. Quiero ver un video. Voy a poner un video que hace rato que he visto en comentarios, no, y se trata de un RG de Minecraft. ¿Qué pasa con ese RG? Es que se trata de un RG con lo del libro llamado El Rey en Amarillo. Y es, o sea, antes que nada, lo del Rey en Amarillo, primero creo que era, antes que nada, Lovecraft, por lo que tengo, no, por lo que tengo entendido, lo que dicen en otro vídeo, porque esto lo encontré viendo otro en sí del Wendy, que es el que dura 3 horas en sí y media. Aún no me lo he visto completo en sí, pero al inicio dicen que pertenece a alguien más. Lovecraft solamente lo expande. Y es algo que voy a poner mientras estamos jugando este juego, así que literalmente.
Whatever you do at the crossroads, don't turn left. Weird book, YouTube channel in a book that Avery claims he did not write. 2 weeks ago, a YouTube channel called Avery, where he showed in is a chest.
Ah, no, pero tú tengo el audio puteado, así que por eso no se escucha. A ver, opciones. Música y efectos activos. Yo ya jugué esto con todo en sí. Y ya jugué un poquito del juego en sí. Pero ahora sí. A ver. YouTube cuadrito. Esto de acá. Y antes que nada, creo que debería reeditar esto de acá. No importa que no sé qué pasa, pero creo que YouTube incluso ha modificado un poco su HOT en sí. Todavía parece algo que es designado para el reaccionador hermano. Pero esto solamente es un video para compañía. Que puede estar callado en sí. Soy bien shy. Soy bien shy, pelotudo. Pero bueno. Igual creo que hay algo en la pantalla de acá. Igual ya está. Sí, ya está. Bueno. A la 1, a la 2, a la 3. Buscando un mundo que no existe. Por... A ver, un momento. No. No, 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 no. No, maldita sea.
Whatever you do at the
Buscando un mundo que no existe por Wi-Fi. De hecho, a ver si hay inglés generado traducción automática. Porque, a ver, me traducí los videos automáticamente para español si están en inglés o en japonés. Pero el idioma español me lo pones bien a fondo, hijo de puta. Culero. Como siempre, youtuber.
Whatever you do at the crossroads, don't turn left. This is the first line in a book that Avery claims he did not write. 2 weeks ago, a YouTube channel called Avery the Mayo uploaded a YouTube video titled Weird Book I Did Not Write, where he shows us a mine that supposedly he never built. Inside the mine is a chest that Avery did not place, and inside the chest is a book that Avery did not write. Inside the book is a very strange message. Whatever you do at the crossroads, don't turn left. Don't be fooled, it's listening. You can't outsmart it, it's listening to me. It's watching me. It isn't from this world. At the crossroads, don't turn left. 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 Over and over, followed by a sequence of numbers. And that's it. It seems impossible that a whole mine just appears in your world without your knowledge, but Avery explains in the description of the video that the laptop he's playing on is from a storage locker. It already had Minecraft installed and this world already existed, but when Avery first loaded it up, it was just a normal world. He only now discovered this mine a few hundred blocks from his house. So in that case, what is this book? The contents are strange and it's not evident what they refer to. If anything, they just sound like some crazy rambling, but the numbers at the end are clearly some sort of code, so maybe we can solve it and figure out what this book is talking about. Except we can't. The numbers go higher than 26, so it's not any alphabetical code. There are 4 sections, not 3, so it isn't coordinates. And in fact, there's not a single cipher that comes up as a good match for this code. If it is a code, it's unlike any code I've ever seen, and I wasn't able to decipher it. So is that it? A strange one-off YouTube video and a dead end? Not quite, because for 2 frames at the very end of the video, Avery's inventory flashes a random pattern of blocks, and this time there is a code, because taking the first letter of the name of every block and capitalizing it if there is more than one, you get a string that perfectly matches the length of a Google Drive link that when you enter takes you to a folder. And this is where the true mystery begins. The mystery of a Minecraft world that doesn't exist. Opening the video named Footage 1, we can see a player in the exact same spot Avery was in the last video, except now he has way more items than he had last time. Presumably this is from his house, and he's come to use this mine in survival as part of this world. The book is now gone from the chest, but it could be that Avery just burned it because it creeped him out, or it's just this book in his inventory. Regardless, Avery lines up with the other strip mine and begins to start a new one into the wall, but when he does, he finds this. Nothing weird, it's just a cave, and Avery walks in to begin exploring, until he stops and sees this. It's hard to make out, but as he walks closer we can see what it is. Moss and grass. This is immediately a red flag because this kind of terrain does not generate in caves. Avery checks underneath it, but there's nothing else either, and when he runs back to grab his torches, he notices yet another patch of moss in the corner of the cave. Again, not natural, but not leading anywhere either. It's only when he heads back down the cave does he see it. A tree. Avery approaches the clump of greenery, and there it is. A tree unlike any other oak tree in the entire game. Whatever this is, it isn't normal. Avery backtracks a bit, and we get a better look at this shrub, for lack of a better word. And after some hesitation and circling around it, Avery decides to try mining the tree. And he does, with no problem. It looks just like a normal tree, except normal trees don't generate underground. And it's not the only one. As Avery goes deeper and deeper into the cave, he passes larger and larger patches of greenery, coming across more shrubs and even more trees, and even more moss. He pauses to talk at one point, but instead of commenting on the trees, he brings up something else. It's weird, we've only rarely seen stone. And I guess he's right, the walls of this cave don't have any diorite, granite, andesite, or ores, but come on, there's a bigger elephant in the room here. At some point though, Avery's wish gets granted and the cave turns into terracotta, tuff, and deep slate. The greenery gets larger and larger, with the trees growing bigger and bigger. Until finally, Avery reaches the end. Avery stops for several long seconds, just taking everything in. The room is a giant cave of green, with strange, unnaturally large trees forming a staircase on the back wall. The floor is covered in a massive field of moss, scattered with the strange trees we saw earlier. Avery slowly heads down the cavern wall, being careful not to take too much damage while maneuvering his way to the bottom. He looks around in awe as he explores the chamber, and from closer up, we can see a tunnel right between the massive tree gates. Avery searches around the trees for a few minutes, seemingly mesmerized by the build, and we can see that these gates are made of trees stacked on trees stacked on trees, made of spruce, mud, and oak. But the question here is obvious. What is this place? This kind of terrain obviously doesn't generate naturally, so who made it and how does it just appear in Avery's world? Well, if there's any answer to that question, it's through this tunnel, because finally Avery decides to stop sightseeing and heads down the tunnel at the center of the room. Avery walks through the mud brick tunnel, turning to glance behind him every few steps, but of course, nothing is there. The world is set to single player. At least, it seems that way. Until this happens. Something is wrong. It's almost impossible to notice, but at the far edge of the tunnel, the first pair of torches have suddenly been wiped out. Avery stares for a few seconds and continues walking. Another pair of torches is gone. I'm not scared of torches turning off. And then another. I don't know what kind of practical joke this is, but I already heard you in the... I'm not scared of a game. I don't know why I just jumped down. I wasn't scared, but I felt compelled. I've never felt like that in my life. What is going on here? Things just went from strange to incredibly creepy in a matter of seconds. This doesn't just happen on a normal world, but Avery did say he found this world on a computer he got from a storage locker. So maybe this is just a world that the old owner of this computer created, and it's just some strange adventure horror map. Case closed. Except it's not, because the video files aren't the only thing in this Google Drive folder. If you remember, there's also this PDF, and opening it, we see this. My exploration into a strange tunnel I found in my Minecraft world. I've been playing this world for a while and just discovered this. This is my documentation of the search. Notably, when I installed Minecraft, this world came pre-created. Always thought that was a little strange, but I'm not really sure. This seems okay enough, but remember what Avery said earlier. He found this computer in a storage locker with Minecraft installed. Not he installed Minecraft and this world was there. Admittedly, it's a pretty small difference, but still, why the conflicting stories? Something you may have also noticed that I can't explain is why Avery's name is now censored. He wasn't censored in the previous videos, but now he's both hidden his name and changed his skin, almost like he's hiding from something. But there's still a lot more of this footage, and if you want to figure out what's happening in this world, why it exists, and what it has to do with Avery, we have to keep watching as Avery runs from whatever it is that's hiding in this world. Avery says he has to keep moving, even if he doesn't exactly know why, and the only way to go is down. Avery takes a leap into the giant pool of water before him and swims down into a junction of tunnels. After some hesitation, he burrows himself in the left wall for air before swimming down the left tunnel. He continues to navigate through the dark water, the tunnel getting narrower and narrower, with no end in sight. Until it opens into a giant cavernous room with just enough space at the top to get a bit of air. When Avery descends again, we can see tunnel openings sprawling across the walls. Avery scans around. There's no marker of where to go, just tunnels upon tunnels as far as the eye can see. And then he hears it. The same sound as when the whispers played previously. Avery rushes to dig into the wall, and as he blocks himself in, we can hear the whispers again. Quieter, but still there, as if they're passing by him. When the coast is clear, Avery digs out. But now what? He has no choice but to gamble on a tunnel and hope it's correct. He scans the walls again, no obvious sign of which one to pick. So finally, he rolls the dice. The tunnel leads to another junction, and again, after a slight hesitation, Avery goes left. The tunnel continues, getting narrower and narrower and narrower, until finally he finds himself in the oasis. Avery looks around the room, strangely, almost peaceful. He's in the middle of a square pond, flanked on all sides by the same uncanny trees. He stares off at the water for a second before towering up and getting a good look around. Nothing but trees as far as the eye can see. For a moment, he pauses, before something snaps, and he crafts a boat to get to the center of the lake. Without hesitation, he dives down into the tunnel and plugs up the hole. He makes another trip for good measure, plugging it even further. If this thing comes through here again, it has to break that, but I need to explore. He sails back to the edge of the lake. What it can't avoid doing is loading the chunk. Avery chops a few trees and crafts a hopper with the spare iron in his inventory. His plan is simple: set a trap for the thing following him. But wait, did I miss something? Because how does he know that something is following him? Sure, those torches turned off, and yeah, we heard those noises before, but there's actually an even stronger piece of evidence I haven't mentioned. Remember when Avery said this? I already heard you in the cave. Well, it took me a second to figure out what exactly he meant, but then I heard this. It's almost impossible to make out, but on a few separate instances while Avery was walking in that original cave, he would randomly pause for a second or two, and now we know why. He was listening. Every time he paused, for just a brief moment, you could hear footsteps on the stone behind him, stopping just a fraction of a second too late to be quiet. But okay, if something is somehow really following Avery in a single player world, how can he stop it, or at least get it to reveal itself? Well, that's exactly what he's doing right now. Like he said, he needs time to look around and explore this world, but while he's gone, anything can just swim through the hole and replace the blocks to make it look like nothing happened. But if Avery turns down his render distance and puts items in this hopper, if he then goes far enough away and unloads the chunk, the only way for the hopper to be empty when he returns is if something loaded the chunk while he was gone. And then, whatever was following him would be exposed. The trap is set. Now it's time to explore. Avery walks through the trees, avoiding the lake so as to not load the chunk. Every inch of this place looks exactly the same. The same gray floor, the same strange trees. Everywhere he looks, there's nothing. Until, just in the corner of the screen, there's a sign. But it's hard to spot, and Avery doesn't seem to see it, and he keeps walking. Then he pauses. Interesting. That's the third sign we've seen so far. What? Where? Third sign? I've only seen this one. But it turns out he's right. Going back and re-watching the footage, just barely hidden in the corners of the screen are two other signs Avery crossed earlier in the recording, though he gave no indication at the time that he noticed them. Avery goes back to all three signs. All of them are blank, so I don't know what to make of it, but Avery seems to be satisfied and he explains why. These signs all seem to point to one place. Both of these angled ones point in the same direction. And he's right. If you line up a coordinate grid with the location and rotation of the signs, you get this. So he's right, all of them point a certain way, and if you trace out their intersection, it hits one specific point. He also pulls off this brilliant move, which you rarely see from these protagonists, by turning the difficulty to peaceful because he ran out of food. Absolutely genius. But with that said, he returns to the lake to check on his contraption. And nothing showed up. Items are still flowing out of the hopper, which would be impossible if anything had loaded the chunk. Avery tells us exactly this. Nothing came through. Not to mention, the blocks are still in the same position Avery placed them to plug the hole. Now that he's shaken off whatever was following him, Avery sails back, presumably to find the intersection points of the signs. But before he does that, he opens up chat and says this. Something is here. What? How? Why is Avery saying that? Why isn't he sending it in chat? What did he see? I don't know if it can hear me, but I'm not taking any chances. The grass block. When Avery left the chunk, he didn't just set one trap for the entity, he set two. Without mentioning anything to us, he placed a grass block next to a block of dirt. In Minecraft, grass can't spread if the chunk isn't loaded. The only way that this block is now grass is if something other than Avery loaded this chunk. I'm not scared, but my gut says to keep moving. Maybe I am scared. From what I can see, the code atop the doorway looks something like this. It doesn't immediately remind me of anything, and plugging it into a cipher decoder gives me no ideas either. Running each of the candidate ciphers just gives gibberish every single time. Whatever this code is, there's unfortunately no way that I, or Avery, can solve it. The second half of the footage picks up with 17 minutes of just staring at the wall. And then he gets it. Okay, I guess it was solvable. Avery says it's a good poem, but doesn't actually reveal what it said, only that it uses cipher stacking, a technique where two ciphers are layered one on top of the other to make a code almost undecipherable. How Avery actually solved it with a pen and paper is beyond me, but the puzzle isn't over yet. There's still this gate, which Avery suspects is some sort of combination lock, but instead of a pen and paper, his solution this time is a bit more, how do I put this? Efficient. And with that, wait. Who's Durlord 3? For the first time in this footage, Avery's sensor bar lingers for just a second too short, and we get a glimpse of the name. This isn't Avery's name. This isn't Avery's skin. Maybe the reason that we got two different stories about where this world came from is because the player we've been watching this entire time isn't Avery at all. But if that's the case, then who is this? The world at the beginning is clearly the same one that Avery was playing on. So what's going on here? If it is Avery on an alt account, why the conflicting stories in the description and the document? And if it's not Avery, then who is this other person and why are they claiming that this is their world they found? I genuinely just don't know, but the only way to find out is to keep watching as Durlord walks through the tunnel after the puzzle and finds himself in the village. It's empty. This village is strange. It's clearly abandoned, if the cobwebs and literal holes in the roof didn't make that obvious, and all the chests and containers have nothing inside of them. There's also an interesting amount of yellow in the carpets, beds, and flooring, but wherever Durlord looks, he can't find anything of interest, no lead on where to go or what to do from here. The fountain and statue in the town center is by far the most eye-catching decoration here, but like we can see, it too is empty. There's no path to take from there. So is this the final area then? The final answer to what's been going on with this world and what's been following him? I'm not sure, and clearly Durlord isn't either, since he keeps looking around for anything out of the ordinary, anything that might give him a clue of where to look next.
Are insufferable. They think that devotion will save them. Rest assured, it will not. Not that it will do them any good to believe that anyway. The ones who realized it pretend they didn't. But it doesn't help that there are some of them who truly believe they'll be saved. The king is coming, Maya. If anything, I wager that their king is already here. It's watching me write this. I don't particularly care. I just want this to be done with. The sooner I can leave, the better. He's arrived. I don't know why anyone is surprised to find that out. This is exactly what they were hoping for. I'm going. I'm leaving this here in the rare case someone finds it. If you have found this, I implore you, turn back. Disconnect. Forget about this world. It's not for you. If you've come here, you must be curious. I know you must want to continue onwards. So I know that this is a heavy ask. But please, do not go any further. For your own good, do not.
crossroads. Don't turn left. Don't be fooled. It's listening. You can't outsmart it. It's listening to me. It's watching me. It isn't from this world. At the crossroads, don't turn left. 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 And the footage ends. Right there. Durlord was the person who wrote the book in Avery's world. How? It shouldn't even be possible that the tunnel led him back to that mine. Durlord found this world on his computer, and Avery found Durlord's old laptop in the storage locker and has been playing on it ever since. But what is this world? What was following Durlord in this footage? And most importantly, what was behind those gates? I didn't put that sensor bar there. That was in the original footage. Whatever is behind that black square was enough to drive probably the smartest protagonist I've ever seen into running for his life. Something that a whole village of people was trying to summon. Something that this entire world has been hiding. A king? What does that even mean? I don't know what to tell you, but I can tell you one thing. The code at the end of the book, now with this footage, we can solve it. Each number corresponds to one slot in Durlord's inventory. 1 here and 36 here. Take the first letter of each item, or whatever number is indicated after the dash. From that, we can get this. Run Avery. It's here. Durlord was giving one last warning, hoping that whatever was following him wouldn't see. But how? How would he possibly know that Avery would find this world? There's no way for him to know who Avery even is. Whatever he saw behind those doors, whatever he knows about this world now, we may never understand. But one thing is certain. Whatever was coming for him is coming for Avery next. This isn't over.
Funding for Shape Realist is provided by Squarespace, the sponsor of today's video.
Puta madre, eso fue posible. Ay, güey, no sé si alguien que habla inglés, ¿verdad? O sea, los subtítulos estaban un poco vendidos allí, pero Dios mío, eso fue posible, mano. Espérese un momento. De hecho, ya sé qué iba a hacer. Que quita el video. Ya, puta. Pausando cada rato para ver el video, mano. O sea, puta mano. Nah. Oh. Buenazo.
From websites and online stores to marketing tools and analytics, Squarespace is all via Force Lightning, Star Wars. Order 66.
Momento que ya desactivo esto que igual. Siempre.
Order 6. Today I'd like to talk about the most wholesome scene in all of Star Wars. Order 66. Edit, I just found out what Order 66 actually is. How do I delete my previous sentence? For those who don't know, Order 66 is a moment in the Star Wars canon that strikes fear into the hearts of all Star Wars fans. It's the moment where Palpatine, right after luring Anakin to the dark side and getting his face all puffy via Force lightning, contacts all the clone troopers across the galaxy and initiates a top-secret order that forces them all to kill the Jedi. Within moments, the vast majority of the Jedi Order is wiped out in one fell swoop, all thanks to the sinister Senate. It's one of the most important moments in the entire Star Wars canon. But I have to say, as someone who's been a Star Wars fan my entire life, it didn't really feel all that impactful when it was first shown in Revenge of the Sith. Here's the thing, the main tragedy of Revenge of the Sith's story is Anakin's fall to the dark side, and the fact that he would go to such dark places and betray his friends and family in the process. Within the context of Revenge of the Sith's story as it's presented solely in the movie, Order 66 feels like more of a cleanup job for the writing. A way to explain how the Jedi Order spread out across the galaxy was wiped out, and why only Obi-Wan and Yoda remain. It's a good scene, thanks in large part to John Williams' excellent score, but on its own, it doesn't really elicit much emotional reaction from me. And I feel like that's blasphemous to say, so let me explain further. Pretend for a second that it's 2005. Revenge of the Sith has just come out in theaters, and you're watching it. You see this guy piloting his starship? Oh no, he got shot down. I mean, that's kinda sad, but also, who was that guy? Oh yeah, he was in the background in the other prequels. Oh no, it's the blue lady. She was also that person in the background in the other movies. And now she's dead. Oh man, that's rough, buddy. Now the guy with the pointy head is dead, man. Oh well, I guess. I don't really know these people. It's 2005. There's no long-ass show dedicated to fleshing out the individual members of the Jedi Council who die here. So like, I don't know, it's sad that this long-standing institution is getting destroyed and that people are dying, but I don't really know them, so it kind of loses some of its emotional impact. Sure, the score is excellent, and Yoda's reaction to these deaths is kind of sad, but it's not quite as emotionally affecting as Anakin's turn to the dark side. Say what you will about the acting and the directing and whatnot, I certainly have, but ultimately, it's sad that Anakin is turning his back on Obi-Wan, because we know these characters, and we may have grown attached to them because they were the focus of the prequel trilogy. These other nameless, dialogueless Jedi are not. And yes, I know that they had established names at this point, you don't have to tell me. It's just the fact that they never mentioned their names in the entire trilogy. You know what other characters in this scene we don't know at all? The clones. In fact, it's actually kind of hilarious in hindsight how unimportant the clones are to the movies they appear in. In Attack of the Clones, they act as a plot device, a mysteriously funded army that the Jedi can use during the Clone Wars that can also eventually betray them in Revenge of the Sith, where they're also used as a plot device that kills the Jedi Order and then becomes the Empire's army for a bit. I guess they were just evil the whole time, because they execute Order 66 without question and kill the Jedi they served under for 3 years. Well, that's great. I mean, I guess it's still kind of a betrayal, but it's a betrayal that practically non-existent characters are performing on other practically non-existent characters. With the exceptions of Obi-Wan and Yoda, who survive anyway, so it's not a huge deal. Once again, it's a good scene, but more so for the music and how it advances the plot, not really because of any investment in the characters. The betrayal here just feels underdeveloped, because the characters involved in it aren't developed in the slightest. So how come when I watch this scene nowadays, it actually makes me cry? In recent years, Order 66 has had somewhat of a renaissance in Star Wars media. Not only has the original scene in Revenge of the Sith been enhanced with new context and information, courtesy of the Clone Wars, but we've also gotten to see Order 66 from way more perspectives than we've ever had before. And it's happened to a lot more characters we've grown emotionally attached to over the years. And it's been presented using much more compelling storytelling and directing techniques. It's gone from a mildly sad thing that just kinda happened as a backdrop to Anakin's fall to the dark side and Palpatine's rise to power, to the single most heartbreaking event in the entire Star Wars canon. But how did we get here? How did this small 4-minute scene in Revenge of the Sith become the basis for some of the best Star Wars stories out there? Well, before we can talk about the new iterations of Order 66, we have to talk about the show that laid the groundwork for the power of this moment. The Clone Wars Wars. Yeah, Patrick and I are doing a retrospective on the entire series, so we were, and still are, gonna cover all this stuff eventually. But it's still worth analyzing a ton of this show's brilliance here. One of the best aspects of Clone Wars is how it fleshes out the key players of the Order 66 scene, and turns them into actual characters. I'll admit, I don't think we ever saw a speeder bike lady in the show, and yes, I know her name is Stassa Lee, you don't have to tell me. But the other Jedi in this scene become actual characters. Ki-Adi-Mundi and Aayla Secura both get arcs in this show where we get to see what their personalities are like and get a little attached to them. And yeah, we knew Ki-Adi-Mundi was very adamant about stopping the droid attack on the Wookiees, but we never really knew much of this guy's actual personality. Getting to actually see him playfully join Anakin and Ahsoka's game over who killed the most droids is a cute detail that adds to his character and makes his death a little sadder. Meanwhile, Plo Koon hits way different. This guy is super fleshed out in Clone Wars, probably because he's Dave Filoni's favorite. He has a special connection with Ahsoka as the one who found her and brought her to the temple, and he appears in a ton of episodes. It's actually really sad to see him die now, especially since he's the one who said that famous line about how clones aren't expendable to him. Speaking of which, the other key players in this scene are the clones. And at this point, I don't need to tell you that the clones are infinitely better fleshed out in Clone Wars than they are in the prequels. They all have individual personalities and aspirations, and they feel like actual characters rather than plot devices. Most importantly, they form bonds with their Jedi generals, which makes it all the more heartbreaking when they break those bonds and shoot the Jedi down. This is especially effective with Commander Cody, who we've gotten to see supporting Obi-Wan over the course of multiple episodes. It kinda stings that their relationship ends in heartbreak and attempted murder. But at the same time, making the clones into such well-rounded and likable individuals throughout the first 5 seasons of Clone Wars kinda makes their betrayal make even less sense. If they're not mindless drones who obey every order without question, then why would they turn on the Jedi with zero hesitation? I pondered this for a while as a kid, but fortunately, the answer finally came in the Season 6 Inhibitor Chip arc. It's so hard to believe that arguably the most important Clone Wars arc in terms of its implications for the larger Star Wars canon almost didn't air because this was right when Disney took over and canceled the show. Thank God they got to finish these episodes for a release on Netflix because this arc really changes everything. I'm not gonna get too into it because again, Patrick and I are gonna get to this arc when we cover Season 6. But basically, this storyline kicks off when Clone Trooper Tup suddenly shoots one of his Jedi generals. The Jedi and other clones are stunned by this, even though we as an audience can easily surmise that this is an accidental early instance of Order 66. And this is later explicitly confirmed within the arc. Tup is taken back to Kamino so the Kaminoans can run tests on him and discover the cause of his sudden urge to kill the Jedi. And by discover, I mean cover up, since the Kaminoans don't want the Jedi or the clones to know that the inhibitor chips placed inside of each clone's brain are meant to take away their free will and force them to carry out Order 66 when the time comes. Tup's chip malfunctioned and caused him to execute the order too early, but the Kaminoans are trying to claim that a virus caused Tup to go haywire. However, Tup's buddy Fives conducts his own investigation and discovers that the inhibitor chips are inside of every clone. He manages to remove his chip and requests an audience with the Supreme Chancellor to tell him all about the Kaminoans' manipulation. But uh-oh, it wasn't their manipulation. They were just following orders from Lord Tyrannus, aka Count Dooku, who was just following orders from Lord Sidious, aka the Chancellor. Oh no! Yeah, Palpatine and the Kaminoans successfully cover Five's discovery up by drugging him, causing him to go a little crazy, and then pretending he attacked Palpatine, thus making the Jedi believe that the clones will go violent and berserk without their inhibitor chips in. And ultimately, this arc ends in Five's tragic death, as he's gunned down by his own brothers. It's one of the greatest stories the Clone Wars ever told, with an unprecedented sense of eeriness to the proceedings because of its inevitable outcome. We know Fives' mission to warn the Jedi can't be successful, since Order 66 does eventually play out as Palpatine intended. So it's especially tragic to watch this story and see just how close the Jedi were to learning of Palpatine's plot. The existence of Order 66 at this point in the canon heightens the dramatic power of this arc, but the reverse is true even more so. This story does wonders to make Order 66 so much more compelling. By introducing the concept of the inhibitor chip, It reframes the clones as victims in Order 66. They never wanted to betray their Jedi generals, the heroes they fought alongside for years in battle after battle, conflict after conflict. We've had 5 seasons worth of clones and Jedi working together and bonding. So to know it all gets thrown away in a heartbeat once Palpatine flips the switch in their brains that causes this massive betrayal is just beyond heartbreaking. This arc also enhances the disturbing power of Order 66 through the use of 2 recurring lines. The first one being, "Good soldiers follow orders." Tup keeps repeating this line before and after killing his Jedi general, and it's so alarmingly cold and robotic. He seems entirely entranced as he says it, unable to form any other thought. All that matters to him is the order. The directive to kill all Jedi that he needs to follow in order to be a good soldier. And this one line is so perfectly indicative of the horror of Order 66 from the clones' perspective. Their free will, their ability to think for themselves at all, has been snatched away in an instant. They've been reverted back to their original programming, which necessitates pure obedience to every order without question. It's a terrifying thought. The idea that these troopers we've grown to love over the course of this series were not only mere pawns in Sidious's quest for total galactic control, but completely unwitting pawns at that. Well, maybe not completely unwitting. The second recurring line in this arc is a reference to the mission, the nightmare in every clone's dreams. Tup speaks about it to Fives as he dies, and then Fives speaks about it to Rex during his own death. The revelation that the clones are all subconsciously aware of the Order is gut-wrenching. Deep in the back of their minds, they know it's coming one day, but they're powerless to stop themselves from carrying it out. The only escape from executing Order 66 is death. Tup and Fives express relief at finally being free of the horrific nightmare, or rather, premonition of what their futures hold. If that doesn't bring a whole new angle of tragedy to Order 66, then I don't know what does. It fits in so perfectly without retconning anything. We can watch this scene knowing that Cody never wanted to betray Obi-Wan and order him shot down. It was all the machinations of the chip. But yeah, we know that's what's going on in canon now, but we also know that that's not how this scene was originally filmed. The inhibitor chips didn't exist back when George initially wrote Revenge of the Sith, and even if that was his idea for why the clones betray the Jedi, it definitely doesn't come across at all in this movie. You essentially need knowledge of the TV show that came out years after the fact to appreciate the full range of the tragedy at play here. And that's not ideal, I'm not gonna lie. Still, for years, Revenge of the Sith was all we had in terms of canon visual depictions of Order 66. Like I said earlier, the Disney buyout resulted in the cancellation of Clone Wars before it could reach its intended conclusion, a depiction of Order 66 from the perspectives of Ahsoka and Captain Rex, 2 characters invented for the Clone Wars show that didn't appear in Revenge of the Sith. But for many years following the airing of the Clone Wars' 6th and final season, we never got to see that unfold on screen. Season 6 dropped a bombshell on us in terms of the inner workings of Order 66, without the show ever getting a chance to portray the event itself on its own terms, in a post-inhibitor chip canon. The idea of ever seeing new depictions of this tragic moment seemed entirely implausible, thanks in no small part to the franchise's new corporate overlords appearing to shun all prequel content in favor of hardcore pandering to the original trilogy. It seemed like the end of Order 66's story. Until it wasn't. Call it an altruistic miracle. Call it Disney finally waking up and realizing that prequel nostalgia pandering was just as lucrative as original trilogy nostalgia pandering. But whatever the reason, Disney announced that the Clone Wars would be given one last season, and in it, a chance to finally conclude with its intended final arc, depicting the Siege of Mandalore and Order 66. Like most Clone Wars fans, I was ecstatic. But little did I know that this announcement was just the first piece of what would become a renaissance of Order 66 content. And in fact, there was one other visual Disney-era depiction of Order 66 that came out beforehand. But before we talk about all this heavy stuff, let's take a break to talk about websites. You know, the thing Fives could have used to publish his findings about the inhibitor chip in order to stop Order 66 before it started. That's the power of websites, baby. And you can make your own using Squarespace. Squarespace is a overall It's a pretty good game. Share your path or domain. Jedi Fallen Order is a game where you play as Cal Kestis, a former Jedi Padawan who's gone into hiding in the 5 years following the Jedi Purge. It's a pretty good game. I played it when it first came out and I really enjoyed it. Throughout the game, you occasionally flash back to your training with your Jedi Master. And I didn't really think anything of it. I was like, oh okay, that's a cute little flashback. Didn't seem necessary, but it was nice, I guess. Eventually, you get to this one flashback where you're vibing with the clones on the way to your training. It's cute to see Cal being friends with these guys. One of them even gives you a high five. How wholesome. You complete your training and make your way to your master, where everything seems a-okay. And then it happens.
Master, are you okay?
I actually gasped when I saw this part. It was obvious they were building up to this with the flashback scenes in hindsight, but somehow this just threw me entirely for a loop when I first played this. I saw these flashbacks as a chance to get some temporary relief from the horrors of Cal's current reality. But of course that didn't last. We all knew going into this game that it wouldn't. And yet, I never would have expected this game to suddenly throw me into the shoes of a young Padawan having to escape Order 66. In my opinion, this sequence is not only the best part of the game, but a far more compelling depiction of Order 66 than what Revenge of the Sith offered. Part of that is due to the interactivity of it all, but you also have to give credit to the way it was built up to and framed. By making it clear that the clones are Cal's friends, it makes their betrayal sting all the harder. And by planting Sidious's hologram in the background of the scene, it better puts you into the shoes of these bewildered Jedi. Jaro Tapal is having a terrifying vision, and Cal is concerned if his master is okay. Neither of them even notice that Palpatine's order is what initiated this. It perfectly reflects just how out of nowhere the whole situation was for the Jedi. Running through the halls of the ship in constant fear of the clones catching you, as you hear John Williams' brilliant Order 66 score playing over everything, is just such an indescribable feeling. It's made even more potent by the fact that we got to know Cal over the course of the game, heightening the emotional investment of his urgent escape even more. In the end, his master is shot down, dying right before him as one of the best music tracks from Revenge of the Sith, Anakin's Dark Deeds, plays. It's such a tremendously powerful sequence, even if Cal's scream at the end is a little bit silly. So yeah, between its build-up, framing, and unprecedented level of emotional investment, this was pretty much the best canon interpretation of Order 66. For about 6 months or so. The final arc of Clone Wars is a masterpiece, one of the greatest Star Wars stories of all time. It flawlessly manages to simultaneously serve as a sequel to 3 of the show's greatest storylines: Maul's takeover of Mandalore, Ahsoka's expulsion from the Jedi Order, and our previous topic of discussion in this video, the inhibitor chip mystery. We all knew going in that this arc would overlap with the events of Revenge of the Sith, and they make this fact explicitly clear multiple times throughout these episodes. It's obvious throughout this siege of Mandalore, where Ahsoka's leading troops in an effort to capture Maul and free Mandalore from his influence, that these are indeed the end times. Throughout the second episode in this arc, Maul appears to be in constant fear of something, some sort of major shift in the power dynamics of the galaxy that ties back to Darth Sidious. We know what he's talking about, but Ahsoka and her allies don't. And that's one of the many reasons this arc is so potent, because not only do we know that Order 66 is going to happen sooner or later, but also, it's an event so horrifying that it has Maul, of all characters, constantly on edge. This seemingly fearless, ruthless Sith Lord is terrified out of his mind over what Sidious has in store. So much so that after being bested by Ahsoka in combat, he begs her to let him die, screaming hysterically at her and the clones. Maul is finally captured, but nothing about the following proceedings are celebratory. The tension at the beginning of the third episode in this arc is so palpable. We got this eerie, haunting music, paired up with these incredibly long takes, and throughout it all, you just can't look away. You keep thinking, is this gonna be the moment it finally happens? More than anything, this is an episode that knows exactly what it has in terms of its story content, and uses brilliant directorial techniques to keep you on the edge of your seat throughout the first 10 minutes. Ahsoka and Rex have a brief conversation reflecting on the war, and how despite all the horror and heartbreak it caused, at least it allowed the clones to exist, and for Rex and Ahsoka to be friends. And it's like, fuck, man, we know what's coming. The build-up here is even more heartbreaking than it was in Jedi Fallen Order, because in that case, we only just got to know Cal, and we don't know the clones that betrayed his trust. But here, we've had a whole series getting to know Ahsoka and Rex. We know what they've been through together. We know how much they trust each other. And yes, due to the existence of Star Wars Rebels, we know it ultimately will work out for them in the end. But that doesn't lessen the supreme power of this one paradigm-shifting moment.
Execute Order 66.
The way Rex's pupils dilate, as if he's been possessed. The way he shakes and drops his helmet to the ground. The way he resists the chip's programming just long enough to tell Ahsoka to find fives and uncover the truth. All of this done with no music. Just eerie silence before the chip finally forces him to shoot, resulting in the same blaring tragic music we heard as Cal mourned his master. The track Anakin's Dark Deeds has become somewhat of an anthem for this terrifying event, and it's a perfect encapsulation of the pure horror felt by everyone involved. While Revenge of the Sith portrayed Order 66 and then swiftly moved along to cover Palpatine's declaration of the Empire and the conclusion of Anakin's fall, these two final Clone Wars episodes are allowed to fully focus on Order 66 and allow it to hold even greater dramatic weight than ever before. After Ahsoka learns the truth, she captures Rex and removes his inhibitor chip, meaning we not only get a Jedi's reaction to this event, but a freed clone's as well. And seeing such a stoic and strong character like Rex cry at the thought of having to kill his brothers is just brutal. That's not even mentioning how the animation on the clones is specifically designed to be more robotic once the chip kicks in, or the insane dramatic irony of the helmets depicting Ahsoka's markings now belonging to unwitting, mindless drones forced to shoot her down. The final episode also makes surviving Order 66 look like the near impossible feat that it was in canon. Like, by comparison, it makes it seem like Obi-Wan and Yoda's clones didn't really try that hard to take them out. No one could have survived that fall, my ass. Now, I don't want to diss the original scene too much. It's good, and it laid the groundwork for all Order 66 content we have now. But everything about the final two episodes of Clone Wars speaks to a true evolution of the directorial and storytelling capabilities of Order 66. Everything from the slow, methodical, tension-filled build-up, to the raw power of the moment it finally happens, to the ensuing nail-biting escape, and ultimately, the supremely tragic aftermath. The burial of these heroes, who became victims of a cruel plot in their last moments. This arc serves as one of the greatest series finales ever made, while also doing full justice to the concept of Order 66. That's where I figured the depictions of this event would end. But little did I know, there was still more to come. The first episode of the Clone Wars spin-off show, The Bad Batch, opens in the same way any Clone Wars episode would, with exciting narration introducing us to the context of the battle we're about to see. It's a simple clones versus droids skirmish with Master Depa Billaba and her Padawan Caleb commanding the clones. Hey, he looks familiar, I wonder where he's from. Anyway, the Bad Batch come in to wreck shit up, and all is well. Except, the opening narration made it clear that we're in Revenge of the Sith territory timeline-wise. And so, once again, we get to see Order 66 depicted. This time from the perspective of Kanan Jarrus. And once again, it starts with sheer silence when the order is given, before transitioning to dramatic music once Kanan realizes what's going on. We hear certain parts of Anakin's Dark Deeds mixed in with a new score. Or maybe it's a returning score from Rebels, I honestly wouldn't know, I never finished it. But ultimately, Billaba is shot down as Kanan runs off. Now, this depiction of this scene is different from a comic that previously portrayed it, which is weird, and I kinda like the comic version a bit better, but I also just wanted to stick to the main visual interpretations of Order 66 for this video. Ultimately, both versions of how this scene went down are great, and enhance the scenes in Rebels where Kanan has to be reminded of Order 66, and all the pain, betrayal, and heartbreak he felt. Back to the Bad Batch, they're, oddly enough, just as confused as the Jedi. They don't know what Order 66 means, and they want to go help Kanan. Except for Crosshair, who fires at Kanan and repeats those chilling words, "Good soldiers follow orders." It's such a potent way to reveal that Crosshair's inhibitor chip is actually working, even while the rest of the Bad Batch's chips seem to be broken. After Kanan manages to escape thanks to Hunter covering for him, the Bad Batch is called back to Kamino, where they notice all the clones acting strange, cold, robotic. The Bad Batch try to make sense of why the clones turned on Master Balaba, and I find this conversation so compelling because it's our first glimpse at how clone troopers, with their original personalities and values before the inhibitor chip wipes those out, would react to Order 66. I'm sure any of the other clones we met over the course of the previous series would have similar conversations if their programming allowed for it. But of course, it doesn't. And that's what Tech correctly theorizes is the reason for the clones' sudden betrayal and robotic nature. Programming the Kaminoans performed on them that doesn't affect the Bad Batch because of their unique enhancements. And yet, it still managed to affect Crosshair, who continues to argue that Hunter let Kanan escape and that they should have just followed orders without questioning them. It makes for such a compelling conflict between a half-brainwashed clone and his non-brainwashed comrades. Again, a whole new angle to view Order 66 from. That's about it in terms of discussing the Bad Batch. The inhibitor chips do have lasting consequences in later episodes, but we pretty much covered everything surrounding Order 66 in this show. Anyway, that seems like it should be it in terms of modern Order 66 interpretations, right? No, idiot. We have to talk about everyone's favorite show. The Book of Boba Fett features an entire episode mostly dedicated to Luke Skywalker training Baby Yoda. If that doesn't tell you what a gigantic clusterfuck this show was, I don't know what will. But this episode features a flashback Grogu has to Order 66. There's not really a whole lot to say here, it's just clones shooting Jedi from Grogu's perspective. It's interesting to see how he suppressed this traumatic memory for so many years, and I feel like we might see more of this flashback in the future since we still don't know who saved him from the Jedi Temple. So I guess that's an indication that new interpretations of Order 66 are gonna keep coming out. We've had 4 in the past 4 years, and the more new Star Wars stories get told, the more angles we'll potentially get to see for this paradigm-shifting event. So now let's bookend things and return to that original scene from Revenge of the Sith. It's still the same scene as it was back in 2005, but it really does feel much more meaningful and significant these days. Now when I watch it, I'm invested in the characters dying and the ones being forced to carry out the order. Plus, I not only see the Jedi on screen, but I picture Ahsoka, Cal, Kanan, Grogu, Rex, Jesse, all the new characters we've grown to love over the years since this movie came out, who all suffered at the exact same time. Don't get me wrong, all this supplemental material enhancing the story being told in this movie doesn't automatically make the movie itself better. But it does make the viewing experience better and more impactful, and I can't help but get emotional with this scene nowadays. I mean, it's a well-constructed scene, even if you hate the movie overall and you don't have the context for all the new Order 66 material. The cinematography and editing are really strong, the music is beyond phenomenal, it's a good, strong scene. Definitely not the best depiction of Order 66 in the entire series, but it did the extremely important job of laying the groundwork for some of the most amazing scenes and stories in all of Star Wars. It took a while for this moment to reach its full dramatic potential, but it was absolutely worth it in the end. And like I said, this might not even be the end for Order 66. I can't wait to see what other horrific, compelling depictions of it we'll get in the future. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video and want more Revenge of the Sith content, I'm also releasing a long-ass YouTube poop of the movie and its supplemental material today on my second channel, Shafe Classic.
Time to abandon ship.
Self-destruct has been activated.
Revenge of the Senate 4, baby! Only took 4 years to make. Go check it out if you want. Good night, Tri-State Galaxy.
distant sense of sadness and loss hangs in the air. Buildings and streets lay desolate. The wind whistles through broken glass. Uninhabited, existing not as memorable statues, but as windows into time. These locations were once full of life. Now, only a ghostly, faded ambience lay strewn about. A generation overtaken by a now thriving nature. What exists now is void. An echo inevitably left to be witnessed. A lingering reminder of the fragile impermanence of life. Now, left to rot in solitude, like corpses of an unmarked grave. Abandonment is all part of the human experience. It is nature to us. To be progressive, to leave behind the present. It is always a harrowing reminder that we are not in control, that we are simply here to witness the power of time. There are locations around the globe kept as memorials, as concepts of history. But what if I were to conjure up the idea that there are locations that are abandoned, but not due to tragedy or natural causes, but because of darker, perplexing reasons. Reasons we can't seem to understand. And, in some situations, we don't want to understand. Cities, towns, villages, miscellaneous islands, all which appear up to date, modernized and polished, but not a soul to be experienced. Almost eerily similar to Potemkin villages, locations that are maintained, but simply as a facade, to throw off the general public and allure the idea that there is nothing to be seen here, nothing to worry about. Users on 4chan's paranormal board, X, came across this idea, defining these locations as empty towns, a liminal space between reality and society. February 1st, 2016. Empty towns. Has X ever encountered this phenomenon? Specifically, driving into a town or a place that one would expect to find a large amount of humans, only to find none at all. I had this happen a few years ago when I went with my family to Hawthorne, Nevada. It was a Saturday afternoon, and the town had a population of 3,000 people, which is small, but surely one would see a single person. We were looking for restrooms, and the McDonald's was closed, the stores were closed, the casino was closed, even the hotels were closed. We settled on using public restrooms in a park that we had found. The women's restroom had shit smeared everywhere, even the doorknob on the other side. It was absolutely disgusting, and I'm glad nobody touched it. The men's room was a good bit better, but still very unclean, but we all used it. After we finished, we returned to the car. Music started playing from the speakers around town, and we gunned it all the way out of town and didn't slow down for 20 miles. There weren't even other cars on the road. It's like the entire town decided to play a prank on us. What the fuck happened? Not sure if you have ever heard of reality glitches. There is a particular type of glitch that has been often reported, and it's exactly what you describe. Something like logging onto an online game server with no other players. I think I found a fake town last year, like Truman Show fake. Be me, last summer, cross-country road trip, hitting up some national parks for out. In central/southern Utah. It's getting late, like 10 p.m. Been driving since 6-ish. It's dark as fuck, no moon. Can only see what's lit up by my headlights. Decide to find some place to rest for the night at next exit. See a town off in the distance. Turn off on only pull-off I've seen for over an hour. Heading towards town. Pull-off is unmarked and unlit. It's not on car GPS, and there's no cell service. Town is directly ahead though, so keep going. Road turns to dirt road, and is about 5 miles until it turns to pavement again. Right at the town where businesses and houses started showing up. Immediately, the town strikes me as weird. Nobody is on the streets. No cars on the streets, or even in the businesses' parking lots. Jazz music is being pumped through the streets for some reason. Not loudly, but loud enough to hear. This town that looked to be about 7 blocks wide from some miles out has every major fast food chain I've heard of, and 7 hotels on the main street. Still, no cell service. And it's still not on the car's GPS. Go to get food. KFC was fully illuminated and unlocked, with nobody there. Same thing with Jack in the Box. McDonald's has a cashier and cook when I go there. Both look annoyed. Take my order. Give me distinctly non-McDonald's nuggets and fries. Leave. Start going to get a bed for the night. Hampton Inn. Empty parking lot. Third annoyed looking person informs me that they're all booked up. La Quinta. Person I'm now convinced was the cook at McDonald's is behind the check-in counter. Also, empty parking lot. Also, fully booked. Holiday Inn Express. Empty parking lot. Person that was clearly the fucking cashier at McDonald's is now behind the check-in counter. Surprisingly, they have rooms. Ask him if he's the guy from McDonald's. No, that's my brother. Fuck it, good enough for me. Get to room. Wi-Fi exists, but nothing loads. Shower and crash. Wake up next day. No breakfast in lobby. No other guests. McDonald's guy still there for checkout. Ask him how to get out of town. Same road you came in on. Head to McDonald's to get something to eat. Town is still playing smooth jazz. Still, nobody on the street. Order at drive-thru. Drive-thru lady is definitely the lady from the Hampton Inn. Ordered a fucking McGriddle and black coffee. She hands me a microwaved English muffin sandwich. And what I assume to be some kind of instant coffee. Place is too fucking weird to stay and argue. Heading down the only fucking road in and out of town. Maybe 3 miles onto the 5-mile dirt road, I notice big metal wire fence on both sides of the road in the desert. They meet on the road and a big motorized gate that is open. Soon as I pass through, gate starts closing. Get back on the road. Finally get onto 62? That's not right. Could have sworn I was on 89 when I decided to pull off. And there's mountains in between. Finally get cell service. Nothing matches description of town. None of the charges ever show up on my card. I've told some people and one suggested it was Richfield, but I know I was south of there. And, you know, they would have actually charged me for stuff. It's difficult enough to research baseless comments posted on 4chan, but with this story, I was actually able to stumble across a Tumblr post about this exact story. A user theorizes that the Anon who wrote the story accidentally stumbled onto a secret military base. Afterwards, another comment comes forward with a rather too precise description of where Anon went to. OP accidentally drove onto a government training site. Most of the major agencies, FBI, CIA, etc., supposedly maintain small, fake, but fully built and realistic towns, all for training exercises. The people in town were base staff and they were all pissed off at him because they were gonna have to fill out long and tedious reports about a civilian getting onto the site. Paiute Reservoir, East Bank. Military installation that is blocked on Google Maps. It's visible from 89, and the road south passes through a Google Maps censored security gate, right before 62. This instant is just one out of 100, but a select few others in the thread discuss experiencing their own empty towns. I've ran into a few of these in Washington and Oregon. It is indeed very unsettling to be in a town and not be able to find another person. They were also close to military installations. Very fucking weird. Actually, I have a similar experience. First year of college. Went to local community college, so stayed in hometown. Bored as usual. Driving around killing time with 3 friends. See road and think, I've never been that way before. None of my friends had either. Head that way. Probably 11 p.m., so it's dark out. Eventually come to a town. There are a lot of small farming communities around here, but we hadn't heard of this one. Muncie is the name. Population, 1,100. First thought is, that's a lot of people for me to never heard of, and for it to be less than 20 miles from hometown of 2,100. Roll into town. First thing I see is a cemetery. Then, a large, very beautiful church. Past police and fire station, same building. And then, a public basketball court. We get to a 4-way intersection which seems to be the middle of town. And we just stop to talk about how this town could have possibly been unknown to us. 3 of the 4 of us have lived in this area our entire lives. And the 4th had been there for almost 10 years. At this point, we noticed that there are no lights on anywhere. Even the street lights were off. Then we noticed that we haven't seen a car, either on the road or parked in the town. It was like the town was evacuated. Not one house had a light on or a car outside. On the main road, we passed 40 to 50-ish houses, and we could see down the side roads because the moon was fairly bright that night. Not one single fucking person. Leave the town, vow to come back the next day. Next day we go back and our jaws fucking drop. Cars are everywhere. Almost every single driveway has one. Probably 20 kids playing basketball. Turns out, there were multiple courts. People are mowing lawns, there are city workers painting the curbs, women jogging. We couldn't believe our eyes. There was more happening there than there was in our hometown. Why in the fuck have I not heard of Muncie before? Ask other friends. Not one of them had heard of it. Never went back. Something about it creeped me out, even when there were people there. Also, something I wanted to mention but couldn't because of the character limit. The sporting events. The town had a school and football field. Our town had 2,100 people, and we were in the same conference as every school in the area, with less than 5,000 in their town. We played schools that are farther away, and even in the same direction. One town, Homer, was about 35 miles away from my town, in that same direction. So, Muncie would have been between us and Homer. For them to have a football team and us not know about it is ridiculous. The only possible way that works is if they only scrimmage themselves and never actually play a game. Had something similar happen on the way home from Niagara Falls in January of '02. Me, my friend, and our girlfriends were somewhere in New York on our way back to Maryland driving through a snowstorm. We were in need of gas and pulled off into a town. It was around 11 p.m. and there wasn't one light on, not even a street light. The stoplights were working, which meant the town definitely had power. We drove around for 15 minutes and finally found a gas station that looked like one of the places that should be open 24/7, and that too was closed. On our way out of town, there was one person in a wheelchair just sitting at a corner, staring off into space. To this day, when me and my friend talk about it, it still creeps us out. Only once. Be 1996 to 1998. Live in middle of Tennessee. Bro goes to live with a buddy and his mom in Kentucky for a while. Breaks into a YMCA or some shit one night. Gets in trouble. Buddy's mom says, come get him. We start driving. Get there around noon, pick him up. He tells me and our other brother about taking a shit in the pool. Fuckers all talk, I take a nap. Wake up an hour later. Car is stopped. Just me and my bros in it. What the fuck, friends, that JPEG. We're out of gas, and Mom left her wallet at home. She's in the church trying to get some gas money. Probably blowing the preacher.kek. We have a good laugh. Suddenly, realize we're the only car around. Streets are completely carless. Noon on a fucking Saturday. That's shopping day in the South. No cars. Mom comes running out of the church, gets in car, doesn't say anything. Drives until she's clear of town, and we're running on fumes. Didn't see a single car or a person anywhere during the drive. Nearly has to coast into a gas station, fill up, grab drinks, on the road again. It's weird, but none of us seem to want to talk about it. I had the urge, and it just went away. I could tell they were thinking about it, though. We rode in silence back to Tennessee. I asked my mom what happened when I flew back for a visit in October. She had no idea what I was talking about. My brother, the one who had to be picked up, didn't remember the town either. He's the one that cracked the joke about her blowing the preacher. My younger brother, who's been a heavy weed smoker since childbirth, remembers every detail. Even a sign over the church that said, "All who wait, enter here." Wish the fuck that smartphones had been around back then. I do know it was somewhere between Tennessee border and Pikeville, Kentucky. And that's fucking it. My story doesn't quite fit parameters, but it is similar. I live in Oklahoma, and there's a small town next to Miami known as Pitcher. It was a great mining town until lead entered the water supply through huge piles of chat. It was hit by an F5 tornado years ago, and it was destroyed, and only 11 people remain instead of 14,500. Anyways, you will enter town and see the huge piles of chat. Later on, you'll see destroyed houses and businesses, and the remnants of the neighborhood. 1 week after the tornado hit, half of the population left, and the rest simply left without packing anything. Similar thing happened to me in Virginia Beach. 21-year-old me, just married, drives to Virginia Beach with wife, giggity.webm. No traffic the whole way there. Such is life in North Carolina. Out of nowhere, brake lights. Go less than 1 mile in 45 minutes. Nothing on radio. Traffic moves again. That was weird. Finally get to Virginia Beach. Complete ghost town. Go to hotel. Staff says we're not full, but go to this place. Okay. Get there. 3 cars in parking lot. Check in. Hungry, looking for food. 7 p.m. on a Friday, and somehow only 7-Eleven is open. 5 years later, still trying to make sense. In 2005, I was on a road trip with my buddy across Canada, but we decided to take the northern route through the prairies. It's similar to taking the Trans-Canada Highway, but it takes a bit longer, and huge chunks of it are poorly maintained. Anyway, I was getting super low on gas and worried that we wouldn't make it to the next town, about 30 kilometers away. Soon, I saw a beat-up sign that had those symbols for gas and food, pointing down a lonely road to the right. So, we took it. About 5 minutes later, we came across this dusty little town surrounded by farmland on all sides. And not a single fucking person anywhere. The gas station was easy enough to find, but it was closed down and boarded up. We both decided to get the hell out of the little town. And luckily, made it to the original destination before running out of gas. Driving cross country to visit family. Stop at a gas station. It has one of those maps of local areas. Small town a few miles out of the way. Figure I've been driving for too long and could use some relax time. I get there, and the place is fucking deserted. Odd mix of white trash and ghost town. Some houses and shops are boarded up and beat down. Others look like they literally just got walked away from. Get a spooky vibe. It has some forest areas around it that had started to grow back. get the I'm being watched feeling, and I just leave. A mile outside of town, a state trooper stops me. Tell him where I'm going, and I just stopped back there for the hell of it. He tells me when the recession hit, it took a lot of jobs with it. And to make matters worse, the logging company that supported the town went under. Lots of people lost jobs and left. With nothing else to do, crime went up. It being a small highway town made it perfect for drugs and smuggling. Lots of violence and missing persons, murders, etc. Within a short time, most people moved away. Others got arrested or killed for taking part in said criminal activities. Town was just up and abandoned. Still gets some criminal activity, which is why he stopped me. Advises me to not come back, especially at night. This was back right when the recession was at its worst, and I'd have a hard time finding the place again. It was in Georgia, but with some small Mayberry hole in the whole town that couldn't have had more than a few hundred people. I would like to go back and explore it one day, if my lazy ass could be bothered. I've got a strange story now. Be me. Around 2002. Brazilian. That's it. That's the end of the story. That's scary as hell. Going on a trip to another state. 3-day trip on car. I'm 13. 10 p.m. Night. Dad is still driving to nearest city to find a hotel. Still driving. We can see a city nearby. Totally dark. Feel uneasy. Dad thinks it's a good idea to spend our night in there. Mother and me disagreeing. He still goes for it. City is dark as hell. Can't see shit. Just some 10 lights on the street. Completely empty. No soul alive. We drive around the city for 10 minutes trying to find an inn or somebody. There is a house open with an old woman in the yard drinking some tea. Dad stops at her house. He goes out and asks for some information. My mom and me stays in the car. We wait until he comes back. Mom's in her phone. She dials to her friend. No signal. Damn. I start looking through the car windows, looking for spoopy stuff. Everything is dead. Dad comes back. Old lady said the town got evacuated by something. There is no one there except her. We will continue the voyage. Still spooked by the lack of lights in the city. Looks back at the lady's house. She is on foot, holding the teacup at my direction. Lights go out. I still cannot sleep well thinking about that night. I can't remember the city name though. During my search for this strange phenomena, I looked through 4chan's archives and I came across a haunting story that comes all the way back from 2014. It shares similar traits to the empty towns concept, but this comes with a disturbing, nearly occult-like twist. It may interest some of you. It's not really much of a story. Not yet. The thing is, in the city I live, there are many old abandoned factories. Some of them were like that for decades. I'm living in a district where there are a few near me. Some of them were demolished, and some renewed, and there are now apartments in them. But among them, there are a few that, for some reason, was left untouched. I once decided to get into one of them. It was quite small. Once a shoe factory or some shit like that. We managed to break in and pick related. So, yeah, the first floor was kind of disappointing. Nothing really interesting there. And really, there wasn't access for the whole building. The end was the bigger room with a pile of rubbish and a hole in the wall. We presumed it's the way up, and we were not wrong. All we had to do was stockpile some stuff near it and somehow squeeze through. This is where it hit me. Later on, a friend told me that he felt the same. This fucking uneasy feeling that there was something wrong. But hell, so we both didn't say anything. Now, light was terrible, and my friend only took a couple shitty photos that show nothing. Well, he took two that can give you a look into what weird shit we walked in on. First room was normal, nothing there, just some rubbish lying. And then, we walked into a second larger room, and this is when it became weird as fuck. There was none of this shit on the first floor, and now, the whole fucking floor was covered in styrofoam with some strange symbols on it. The whole fucking walls were covered by these symbols. Yeah, it might not sound scary at all, but being there combined with that weird feeling from earlier had fucking done it. There was something really wrong with this place, and we knew it. I mean, who the hell covers a whole room with such shit? But we decided to keep on. This is also where my friend's phone died. I didn't even bring one with me since I lived near, and I didn't really have the need. Only thing we had was a cheap lighter. Anyway, those fucking drawings, they were also in the other room. More symbols and those weird fucking like fetus-like things. Shit was unsettling at least. And the thing is, I only realized it then, that it almost felt as if someone was watching me, which was absurd, since there was no other way to look into that building just like that. We roamed the second floor like that, looking at those weird symbols and fetuses. There was nothing else except those, and we decided to slowly come back. And this is when we heard something, like a slight screech. And then, the wind put out our lighter. In split seconds, we both figured that there was no fucking wind in this building earlier. Not even a slight draft. Maybe we were both just paranoid, but we simultaneously noped as fuck. I don't really remember. I think I saw some movement the moment we escaped through that hole onto the first floor. But that was probably nerves and all. It was dark, the atmosphere was weirding us out, and we lost our reason once we decided to get out of there. Although this place can't leave my mind, I don't think it's the only one like that. I think I will prepare and check out the other factories. Maybe I will go back to this one. Maybe during the day. For sure, I am not coming there alone. The original poster of this story would never return with an update. The interesting thing about this empty towns theory is the range of possible explanations behind them. Unknown and uncanny. Disturbing nonetheless.
Madre. Amigos, a ver. 4chan y su obsesión con los lugares, bueno, con polvos vacíos en sí. Por cierto, aquí vi un video de 2 horas, así que no, obviamente no. No. Vamos por algo más tranquilo, menos heavy. Por cierto, vamos a abandonar la saga esta de Monster Enciclopedia, porque bien larga, compleja y como que dura Subir 2 horas sin... No, así que no. Ay, el loquito del salón, mano. No,
Mijo, ¿y esa mamada qué? Bueno, un momento. Mm, espérese. El video fue de señor Cocopel. Fue por este güero. De hecho, que él no ha hecho la historia, lo que pasa es que él hizo la búsqueda en sí. Y mano, hay más locas en sí. Más que han mostrado. Sube. Siguiente. Chamo Gutiérrez. Versión sci-fi. Splinter. El chamo. Chamo Gutiérrez. Sci-fi. Splinter. El hongo necrofágico de esto dentro de ti. Biología y origen explicados. ¿Cómo? Era lo de Deimos. Ok, ok. Güey. Terminamos esta misión acá y ya nos retiramos. Entonces. Mm. Mm. Ve.
Bueno, y queda el video, igual, pero aún queda mucho que hacer acá. Y bueno, aquí ya terminamos. Salimos y bueno, me despido. Se me cuidan.